I'm Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go.
Welcome. Today, I wanted to talk about a case that has weighed very heavy on my heart and in my mind. And there were multiple other cases in the past few weeks. There was um, a pastor that was unalived by her husband. The influencer. So I'm watching the influencer that passed in Africa, and the family does not believe that she died at her own hands. And so I'm keeping an eye on that one. There was another situation, like there have just been so many cases. This case here, it is the case of Serena Fairfax. And she was a mom. She was a dentist. So it's actually Dr. Serena. And I woke up on April 16th, which is already kind of a heavy day for me anyway, as a graduate of Virginia Tech. That is a day that we remember the mass incident that happened down on our campus back in 2007. And I saw the notifications that there was an incident at Justin Fairfax's home. And they initially did not report who who the bodies were, but by within like an hour, there was reporting that Serena was unalived by her estranged husband. Their children were home. So there are two teenagers that, due to the actions of their father, they are without their mother and their father, and they were home. The oldest son is the one that called 911. He initially believed that his mom had been, he thought something had happened with a knife. He did not know exactly what happened. And I remember when there were allegations against Justin Fairfax, the former lieutenant governor from back in 2019. So I have the details in the description, but back in 2019, while he was the active lieutenant governor under Ralph Northam, I'm bad with names, but I remember his first name was Ralph. Under that governor, there were two women that alleged a history of SA involving him. And he strongly denied all of those things, but that pretty much his political career was over at at that point. And it's my understanding that in 2024, Serena and Justin, I believe Serena was the one that kind of wanted to start the process of a post-nuptial agreement. So there is something called a prenuptial agreement. So that's what you do before you're even married. But they did a post-nuptial agreement. And it's my understanding that there were recent court battles over things in that post-nup. So they were separated, but physically living in the same home. Virginia is you have to live separate, or like you have to have separate lives for a year. If you have children, there are laws, unless there are incidents of DV. But Virginia, there's normally this cooling off. There's normally a year that you have to be separated. And during that period of separation, you can't do their laundry. You can't be physically intimate. Like there are restrictions for what can and can't happen during that period of separation. And they were under the same roof. I suspect that he might have been in the, I don't know, like I don't know exactly where he was. But it sounds like there were major financial issues. There are court documents where we are seeing that around 2022 that there were allegations of him starting to use alcohol excessively, and that Serena had concerns, and that Justin Fairfax, that he had used money that was supposed to go towards the children's horseback riding He was supposed to use that for like it was supposed to go towards horseback riding, but he used those funds to purchase a pew pew. And he actually went missing for a period of time. It wasn't like a date, but like there were a few hours where they couldn't find him, and he was found with that pew pew in like a park or something. That's based on the news reporting that seen about that incident. There is so if he did have an active therapist, that therapist, their records would probably be subpoenaed as a part of the death investigation. So the state of Virginia is still investigating, even though it was a redrum and then he took himself out, even though that was what happened, they are still investigating this case. There were also allegations that he made a false allegation that Serena had assaulted him, but she had cameras. So she had cameras installed inside the house. And when the police reviewed the footage, it was clear that there was no incident that happened, but this was in January. And he was supposed to leave the home by April 30th. He was. So he was supposed to leave the home by April 30th. I forgot that here in Virginia, we have red flag laws. And what a red flag law is that a judge, the state, that if somebody legally owns a weapon, but maybe we think there's mental health things, there's something going on, there's a significant reason why that person shouldn't have access to a weapon, there are red flag laws in Virginia. He was about to lose physical custody of the children, but he was still allowed to have visitation. He just had to blow. So an hour before the visit, he had to breathe into a breathalyzer, because once again, there were allegations that he was isolating himself and that he was using alcohol excessively. My heart breaks for this entire community. Dr. Serena practice up in the Northern Virginia area. People have been dropping off flowers. There are people that I've seen in the comments, people saying she was my dentist. Like this has impacted our area in a major way. I would not talk about the case if I knew anyone personally. So I do not know so I have not personally interacted with any of these individuals. But it was really hard because there are people trying to reconcile the Justin that they knew with what he did. And I'm going to be honest, it pissed me off and made me really mad to see people posting pictures with the two of them together looking happy. So any picture I posted, it's her by herself and him by himself because she wanted to leave him. That marriage was over and she had every right to leave. And that should have happened. She should have been able to safely end that relationship. Unfortunately, I think he likely felt his life was falling apart and he never recovered from when his I think he lost his job at a law firm. It's my understanding that he could not find employment after those allegations. And so I watched, I don't know. So Roland Martin did a podcast and I thought there were parts of it that were helpful. There were parts of it that weren't particularly helpful for me personally. I did watch it, and he knew Justin personally, and he talked about how Justin was focused on how it didn't feel fair, how this wasn't fair. And there is a vengefulness. And when you feel like things aren't fair and when you feel like things are out of your control, he needed help and she deserves safety. So the fact that like they had to live in that home together. So it's my understanding it was 12 a.m. So Sunday night going into Monday morning, that's when this incident occurred. And the children were the ones that had to realized what happened, called the police. And initially, the police were not sure. They didn't know where he was because they were initially searching outside the home. They didn't know that he had went upstairs to the primary bedroom, and that's where he made the decision to end his own life. Um, my personal thoughts about that is that I don't know that he wanted the consequences. I don't know that he would have did what he did to just himself. And it breaks my heart that he took his children's mother. And heart goes out to kids. My heart goes out to the family. And I just wanted to share resources and tools because children that have experienced tragedies like this, as a therapist, I often, sometimes they will struggle with thoughts of self-harm. Like they will often struggle themselves, understandably, because this was a horrific loss. And uh, uh, and it goes deeper than just mental health. So I see this as a domestic violence incident. People want to call this like a messy divorce, or this was unsafe. The alcohol and the access to a weapon, I think, created this, and then this increasing hopelessness. All of those things, I think, created this deadly storm that it's my goal to find ways that we can prevent this sooner on. And that's where it's like, who would let their kids. So Justin didn't call the police himself, because some people do that. So some people, and once again, we don't do crimes here. We don't want people to learn how to crime better. We don't want any of those things. But like, this was an incredibly selfish, self-centered, and that's why I really, really just wanted to center Serena, her life, the fact that if somebody decides to leave, they should be able to. And in Virginia, so I wanted to share some statistics for Virginia, and I do have a link to this down in the description. And so these are DV incidents for Virginia, and then also nationally. And so uh, that's where more than 30% of homicides in Virginia are domestic violence related. 56% of those involve firearms. 80% of them happen within the home. 40% happen during or after a relationship breakup. Uh, More than 20% involve taking somebody, the yes. So I can't say this word on the YouTube. And then while women make up 51% of Virginia's population, they account for 63% of people unalived by firearms in intimate partner related incidents. All right. And so there are signs. So common signs: intense jealousy, insults, yelling, embarrassing or shaming a person, belittling someone, um, trying to control where the person goes, destroying property, pressuring to be intimate, threatening to destroy the person's life or sabotage their job, and a violent temper. All right. And then there are common behaviors that people engage in when they are the victims of this. And then there are resources. And so here in Virginia, I know in my Fredericksburg area, we have shelters, we have supports, we have resources. Um, am I still frozen? hopefully, hopefully I'm not still frozen. Hopefully I am not still frozen. Okay, good. Okay, good. Um, and so I connected back. So I was just connected to the Wi-Fi only, but so I've hopefully connected things and things aren't frozen. And it's warm here in Virginia right now. So I don't think this has anything to do with the weather. And Virginia is a great place to live. These type of statistics, unfortunately, are they're probably similar state to state. I don't know that there's anything specific about Virginia with these statistics, but there are nationwide hotlines. There are anti-violence project. I know that if someone connects with the uh, uh, DV shelters or hotlines or supports, sometimes they will send advocates with the person to court. And um, and so this whole thing just absolutely breaks my heart. And um, once again, people should be able to leave. That once the relationship is over, people should be able to leave. And if a person feels like their life is falling apart, like they can't find employment, everything is just crumbling in on them, getting support from family, the more the person isolates, the more they can kind of start ruminating and thinking and obsessing over those dark thoughts, over that dark side. And so this is just she deserved better. Her family deserves better. And there are family law experts that are hoping that there are changes after this incident. And it stinks that something like this has to happen for for laws to change, for things to change. Um, uh, but a lot of people that took a look at the case file and what was happening in this case, they say that there were clear warning signs. And so Megan McCrae, a domestic relations attorney, said when you have a parent who has alcohol issues, mental health issues, access to firearms, it's a good indicator that there is potential for something volatile like this to happen. And I completely agree. And that's from a WUSA 9 article. um, and it's just I don't have words, but I needed to hear I needed to sit with you all in all of this because it's been difficult. And a lot of my timeline is is a lot of um so I have some Facebook friends that I think did know him personally. And a lot of them, because I went and I looked at their pages to see if they posted anything, and the people, I know one person in particular that I know knew him, and that individual hasn't posted anything about the situation. But people posting pictures of them with him happy. He made this decision, and so that's where I think she needs to be the center. Her kids, her family, that needs to be the focus. And I know that people are confused because they're like, this isn't people want to say this isn't the Justin that I knew. But that's where I wonder, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, because there were a lot of people, because even on that Roland Martin show, he wasn't aware that they were separating, that they were in the middle of a contentious divorce. There were parts of this story that I think people did not know. And only the people closest to Serena likely knew. And I think he was isolating himself. I don't think he was talking about what was going on with him. And I've worked with survivors in the midst of their court processes. I've worked with individuals, and the other hard part about this is she had a good lawyer. She had all these supports. And so some people can lose hope. Like, so if I'm working with somebody that isn't as financially stable as she was to be able to afford, because a divorce attorney, especially if it's contentious, divorce attorneys are between $50,000 to $100,000 sometimes. If you have a messy case, it can be extremely expensive to attend a 2-day custody hearing, to go through all of that. that can just be a lot. And so that's where some people struggle to leave. So when people are like, when people find out that somebody is being harmed and they're like, why didn't they leave sooner? Leaving is hard. And so uh, my suspicion, so we don't know for sure. My suspicion is that there was likely an argument. Something happened at 12 a.m. My suspicion is that he might have been under the influence of alcohol. So we don't have the results of his autopsy. I don't know if that will ever be made public, but that will be a part of the investigation. I would suspect that he was likely under the influence of alcohol. That would be my suspicion. And um they were separate but in the same home. So he was supposed to leave the home at the end of the month. It's also my understanding that he was in deep credit card debt, that he wasn't financially, he wasn't like he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do financially to, contribute towards the household. Because if you stay under one roof, they normally say that there has to be child support and there has to be like contributions toward things. And so it's my understanding that a lot of that was not happening, and it was a lot. The DC area, especially, so Fairfax, I think they were in Annandale. I'm bad with names, but they were in Fairfax County. I used to live in Fairfax County, loved it. Great area to live, extremely expensive, extremely expensive. But it's difficult. It's difficult. And I think this was a DV incident. Roland Martin tried to talk about it from the perspective of because he had two Black male therapists on to talk about the importance of men getting into therapy. Yes, so Annandale, I thought it was. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah. I thought that's, yeah. I thought that's where it was. And I even forgot that that was part of Fairfax County. So we lived in Springfield, but like that's close to Alexandria. We were up in that area. Absolutely loved it. Beautiful area, but very expensive. Very, very expensive. So you mentioned that the area was expensive 45 years ago. Wow. And so thank you to Alina for becoming a member. Thank you to Jenny G241 for being 214 for being a member for 2 months. Thanks for all your great insights, Dr. Berry. I appreciate you all. Thank you for letting me talk this out and share this here, because all these thoughts were just roaming around in my head. My mom is in the chat and she'll tell you, like, her and I have been talking about things. So I was just saying I watched the show and there were parts that I thought were beneficial, some parts that I personally didn't resonate with. One of the experts, one of the therapists that was on, I liked the things that person had to say. Um, I think because Roland Martin knew Justin personally, just as an outside person watching it, I think he likely believed that Justin didn't do the allegations. So the women that came forward and alleged SA, because it's almost like people are almost blaming those two women, that those two women, derailed his career. When I was talking to my mom, and I'm glad that we teach consent and boundaries in a healthier way now. So when I grew up, I wasn't raised that consent is an enthusiastic yes. Like, now, I think in the back of my mind, I understood that you shouldn't be intimate with somebody that was passed out, but that wasn't, I don't remember us having conversations and dialogue around consent. And so in his mind, I don't know, he likely thought, but that's where I think things were kind of, I don't know. So he was never found guilty of anything. The two women made allegations, and one of them came forward after this incident and talked about, like she threw in there that he has a history of problematic behavior toward women. That's what she said in that moment. And so, um, and so I was just talking about, like, now we tell people that if a person is passed out, if the person is extremely intoxicated, that consent should be enthusiastic. So that consent should be enthusiastic. Yeah, and so a lot of people say that his career might have been over way before it. Um, yeah. And so Roland Martin had a YouTube podcast. If you want to check it out, feel free. I had to skip through because there was a lot of filler at the beginning. I think I skipped forward quite a bit when they actually started the panel with the two therapists. And there were aspects of that I thought were helpful, aspects that were not as helpful. Thank you for mentioning that he was served with a show cause on April 21st, and maybe. Oh, so he was supposed to attend a show cause hearing on April 21st. Oy. And that was probably about the finances, because I think he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do financially. I don't know that for sure. I am guessing with what that was. All right. And so that consent should be an enthusiastic yes. So not like so if somebody is going to be intimate with somebody, that it shouldn't be like, I guess. Like, it should be an enthusiastic yes. ah. Uh if anything new comes out, Mama and I might collaborate on this. There is a great there's a great video. It's called Consent Tea. Let me find that. I can find it real quick. YouTube consent tea. It's, would you give tea to somebody that's sleeping? No. And it's a way to talk about consent. I use this when I work with kiddos, and we're talking about boundaries. And so it's just about boundaries, consent, and boundaries. And so consent is as simple as tea. And so yes, yes, yes. If somebody wanted tea yesterday and they don't want tea today, would you make them drink tea? No. And so it's a cute little video. Next, we are going to talk about the Tracy Grist case. Feel free to come with me over to that video. If you are good for today and do not want to continue, you can. Mama's comment is, when identity is connected to what you do, produce, etc., and not like maybe who you are, there can be a huge fracture. No excuses for what happened. Yes, just know that it matters. I also think some people have their identity in, like, being married, like being a husband. I think that Serena wanted the divorce more than he did. And and so, because there are some people that view divorce as a failure, that they failed, that they're a failure, when sometimes relationships don't work out, and you pick it up, you move on. But this was toxic. The children should not have been exposed to this. They were likely exposed to his substance, because if he was struggling with alcoholism, the kids likely saw it, especially as teenagers. And so, yes, that the identity can sometimes get stuck at being a provider, husband, and when those things fall apart. And so you have to figure out something else. Dr. Berry, I'd love for you to cover the new CNN documentary on husbands, boyfriends. Ooh, so no thanks. Lisa, so you always want the deep stuff? We'll see. So I just have to figure out a way that what we can learn from it, because that's where that just shouldn't happen. And so some things I don't like touching, because it just shouldn't happen. So we are going to head over to the Tracy Grist case. If this is your final video for today, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I am watching a lovely new K-drama on Disney Plus. It's called Perfect Crown. I am loving it. I finished the finale of The Pit last night. The Pit, there were a lot this season of The Pit. There were a lot of triggering episodes. There was a lot this season, but it was a great show. You caught me off guard with that, Lisa. I wasn't ready. You always send me really, really good ones. You do. You do. I appreciate it. And so I appreciate you all. Ooh, yes, Perfect Crown. It's a really, really good show. I'm enjoying it. Yes. And so we are going to talk about Tracy Grist next. I hope you all be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.